We're going to cover a topic about Sean Manaea and the changes that he has made with his pitching mechanics, and that has helped him, become successful with dropping his arm slot, and the reason as to why he did that. If you guys are new to this channel, my name is Ryan McWilliams, founder of all the BSF pitcher performances in all three Bo Jackson's Elite Sports Dome locations. So what we're going to be talking about a topic is Sean Manaea's mechanical changes, why he dropped to his arm slot position, and how it's helped him. So we're going to play a clip next that's going to talk about the changes that he has made for those mechanical changes.
You mentioned maybe lowering your arm angle a la Chris Sale. Can you maybe for the layman explain why you did it and what it allows you to do?
Like I was always just kind of like fighting myself, like doing that. It was like I was on the fence, like trying to go up here, but then my body naturally just wants my arm to come down here. And then after he pitched against us, I was like, let's just try throwing it down there. Let's just lean into the natural arm slide of mine, or at least what feels natural to me. And ever since then, it's just kind of been feeling a lot better. Like I'm naturally wanting to go down there, and I'm not like fighting myself to be like trying to find a different arm slot. For me, it's just like leaning into that natural thing and just going with it. And it's really freed me up. I feel like I can throw everything for strikes now, and everything's just coming out of the same slot too. So
based on that video, you guys obviously has heard some of the changes that he has made with his mechanics. He lowered his slot, that has helped him become more efficient. Had a better feel for his off speed and his fastball location, and the way that he created that deception, with the slot coming down almost like a Chris Sale. And when you're looking at biomechanics, right, we like to say what that is, he found his path of least resistance. Well, is that change that they made from a mechanical standpoint, are they fighting more against their body, or does it feel more, like Sean said, more natural? And if you can start to experiment with certain positions on the mound, because in biomechanics, positions dictate function, right? Then you're gonna allow that body to find the path of least resistance when you're going down the mound. Based on what Sean was talking about, he really was just saying that him dropping down from instead of here to here, it felt more natural to him, right? And I think a lot of us are almost afraid to use this word, experiment. And I feel like in the training industry, everybody's always trying to be the godfather of some objectivity with pitching mechanics. And at the end of the day, everything's subjective and it's related, and it's more about who that individual is, how they learn, how they move, what are their limitations. And yes, there are objective principles in biomechanics that does transfer towards velocity gains, understanding objective data on the difference of movement of the pitches, whether you're more a supinator or a pronator. Like there is some objectiveness to it, but there is a lot of subjectivity based on the individual, your anatomy makeup, your tissue quality. There's just a lot that goes into an individual that's again why we want to experiment a little bit to see how does he find that natural slot, how does he feel like he's finding that path of least resistance where he's not fighting his body. And if they're constantly making changes and they're constantly fighting their bodies, right, then okay, let's experiment a little bit, let's redo some metrics and let's look at some numbers and let's compare the data to see, hey, can we sustain these type of changes, and is this going to be the best option for us? So again, like there's a balance and there's that gray area between what's objective and what's subjective, and a lot of people like to throw those words out there, but there is objective data, and then there's subjectivity based on the individual, based on the athlete, based on a mental cue or whatever you're trying to teach to that athlete. You got both sides to this. So that's just some of the things that when we look at athletes, we collect objective data, we look at the subjectivity of it, of every athlete learns differently. They're more visual, they're more like, reading data type of, or they're more like watching video, or they like to replicate and imitate, a professional pitcher to get that feeling, to get that movement. So yeah, there's a balance with this. You do sometimes have to experiment, right? Like understanding your back foot position, or different positions on the rubber, on the mound, different arm slide angles. And so that's kind of what makes these guys great, is that they have great awareness as to how their bodies are moving, how they find that path of least resistance, and then using objective data to then back it up and saying, yeah, this works for me. Yeah, this creates better, deception. This creates a better shape with this pitch. So I think it was just a very interesting topic for us to talk about, and why it's okay to experiment if you're a viewer out there that's having a hard time, with his mechanics, and he feels like he's always fighting rotation, or he doesn't know what to do next, right? And so that's why like utilizing these off seasons is so critical. It's so important to us baseball players, is because you look at the greatest out there, right? These guys are making changes in the offseason and then going out and executing, right? And I think that's what separates you from being a good player to a great player, is making those changes in the offseason. And so, I think this speaks a lot of volume, and shout out to, Sean Manaea and his changes and his success. And I thought that was a really cool explanation that he gave, where everything just felt more natural to him. And I think a lot of guys, younger athletes out there, they'll compare what a major league pitcher is doing, and then they try and replicate that, which isn't bad, but you just got to understand, like, what are those advantages that those professional athletes have over you, and then ask the why question, like, why can they get into those positions better than I can? And so it's just an awareness thing. But I also think, like, from a pitching mechanic standpoint, we can't be afraid to experiment what feels natural, what doesn't, because you got to look at the mound, right? The mound has gravity, it has slope. So first off, if you want to make mechanical changes, you got to attack the low-hanging fruit better. You got to be the guy that can handle the demand that the forces of gravity is being placed on you, because if you're not stronger than those forces of gravity that's being placed on you, you're always going to be fighting rotation. You're always going to be fighting to hold a certain position, fighting to hold tension down the mound. And so I think just a lot of athletes are always looking for that quick fix. Obviously, Sean Manaea, he's developed that raw potential power. Like, he's developed his foundation to then make those type of changes where, he's strong and resilient enough where it's not going to affect him down the road. And then, using data and being exposed to that type of data to really look at his slot and the way his pitches move, that's kind of where you get more analytical in that data. But a guy like him, he's able to make those adjustments because his body's strong and resilient enough to, again, find that path of least resistance. And so, for us, that's what we're trying to teach individuals is, hey, yeah, if you are a guy that lacks internal rotation, but we see that you're more biased in holding your foot position more external, why not cheat it? Because if you do already lack internal rotation, now you have a longer path of internal rotation if you're more biased set up externally with that foot, which is then going to make you fight rotation. So if you lack that internal, why not just position the foot, adduct it about 10, 15 degrees, where you're still able to get to hip flexion, but the path of your internal rotation is shorter, not as long, and it's going to allow you to clear those hips and then clear the trunk and then clear the arm. So it's just understanding that awareness component with your body. So that's why in biomechanics, structure indicates function, but positions dictate function. And that's just such an important concept for us to understand, because we got to experiment with certain positions, and we got to be comfortable with, experimenting in the off season, with our body and how we can find that path of least resistance on the mound. And so, so those are some of the things, like with Sean, Sean Manaea had great awareness of, my pitches are moving better. The slot feels more natural to my body and the way I want to move to create a certain outcome. So credit to him for understanding that awareness and doing that. But he's also a professional who's been doing this for years. So for your younger guys out there, it's going to take maybe a couple years to really understand your body and really start to notice those changes that you're making from off season to off season, and then learning how to make those adjustments from off season to off season to then execute in season, in game, where you're an impact player, and at the end of the day, you're competitive in between the white lines, where you're not domed up mentally thinking about mechanics, thinking about that stuff in game, which I've been a victim of that. And so, speaking from experience, these are some of the things that we can help our athletes with in the off season, that there is some experimenting that goes along with this, and trying to find their path of least resistance and how they can optimally move better with gravity pulling them down, being on the slope. But that's why for our younger guys, our high schools, and some even college guys, it's still about attacking that low-hanging fruit, which a lot of people overlook. And that could be a huge advantage for you by staying disciplined outside the training and in the baseball field, getting the sleep, proper hydration, proper nutrition, constantly tracking your numbers in the weight room to get that strength up, constantly remeasuring your metrics using the equation of force equals mass times acceleration, getting that lean muscle mass, seeing those metrics. Are you accelerating better? Will it transfer better by that skill component? So there's just a lot to this, but that's why we try and stay in the middle of everything. We don't try and get too objective and too subjective with everything. We just want to look at both angles, both sides of everything, and really just see how can we help one individual maximize their potential to be, again, an impact player on their team. Open to all comments, in the comments below about this topic and the reasons why, Sean might have made these certain changes. But again, he's a professional athlete that has great awareness, that has developed the foundational strength, that has spent years on years on years of developing his body to be strong and resilient, where he's able to make those changes to the point where he feels natural and where he can get the job done, where he can go out and execute. But that's not going to be for everybody, making those changes, and then going out right to the next season and doing that. So, it might take a couple years, to experiment with your body to really find what optimal mechanics, is your body going to then produce. But also realize that, the older you get, the stronger you get, the body makes those changes. The harder you start throwing, your arsenal might start to change with your off-speed pitch. There's a lot of components that goes into this, So I just thought this video was cool to talk about. Just some of our thoughts behind that. But if you guys want to, ask more questions in the comments below, open for conversation with this topic. So if you guys haven't already yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you guys are looking to join us here at BSF Pitcher Performance in all 3 of our Bo Jackson's Elite Sports Zone locations. We have one in Lockport, Illinois, Bentonville, Illinois, and Columbus, Ohio. So again, we're trying to help individuals. We're trying to help athletes, trying to create proper routines for these guys. Again, that is all backed up by science and the research and providing proper training methods and not utilizing personal anecdotal opinion towards training these kids and these athletes, college, professional. If you're a guy that wants to learn more on what we're trying to do here for our guys, click the link in the bio, and we hope to see you soon.